Bear with me. Oh, it's working. Yes. Okay. Great. So tonight we're going to be talking about what's called the desire divide. And what I'm going to be talking about tonight is how chronic illnesses like rheumatoid arthritis and multiple sclerosis, Graves' disease, any lupus, any of these types of autoimmune diseases, and just chronic pain in general can show up in your life, especially as we get older, and creates these types of libido mismatches where one of you may be in the mood and the other one isn't. And it might not be the partner who has the chronic illness that um, is the one who's not in the mood. And we're going to talk about some methods and what we can do about it to make it work. Okay. All right. So first, I just want to welcome you. I did that just a few minutes ago. So welcome to our little space here to talk about this topic. I'm Renee Yvonne. I'm a certified sex counselor. I work mostly with couples over 40. So I take Gen Xers pretty much who want to reignite the spark in their bedrooms, better communicate their sexual needs, and once again experience wildly pleasurable sex with their partner. So sounds like fun, right? And it is. Just a little bit about me. I've been featured on a number of podcasts, including Sex is Medicine with Davy Ward and Sex Advice for Seniors and the Auntie Hour, Sex Coach U. So a lot of fun places where we're talking about sexuality, particularly as we get older. All right, so to start out, let's just ask, I want to just ask this question. Do you feel disconnected from your body? Right. This is something that happens oftentimes to people. They feel a little disconnected from their body, especially if they're dealing with pain. Oops, sorry. There may be some shame and some self blame that's going around as far as desire changes, right? And so if you felt like, I've been in a lot of pain lately, my partner really wants to be um, intimate with me, and yet I just don't feel like I can provide that to them right now. Maybe there's a fear of rejection or pressure in a relationship, right? So you might feel like when I am in the mood, I might be rejected, or if your partner is kind of feeling like that, that's something that comes up. And then you might just be grieving the loss of your old sex life. Like if you are dealing with a chronic illness and then suddenly you realize that you can't move the way you used to, your body is in pain, you're grieving that sex life that you used to have, right? When you were swinging from the chandeliers and you could put your feet behind your head and all that stuff, and suddenly you're like, I can barely get my feet in the bed because my body hurts so much. You can be grieving that loss of your old sex life. Right. Sorry, I need to fix something here. Okay. Right, I just want to make sure that was moving. Okay, perfect. All right, so I'm gonna tell you a little bit about my journey and where I am today and why I even chose this topic. So, I started out as a chemist, nuclear chemist. I have a marketing background as well. I know you're probably thinking, so Renee, what in the world does this have to do with sex? Well, sexuality is all about chemistry, right? It's about two people coming together, sometimes we make one. Also, chemistry is a lot about problem solving. It's a lot about we've got these two things going on. How do we make something new? So I use a lot of chemistry in my marketing background in this business, to be honest. Um, Back in early 2013, I think it was, I was dating someone who had a low sex drive, and it was due to the medications that he was taking that happened. And so I was in a sexless relationship for a few years, and it led me to start doing this work because I found that a lot of women were in the same place, like they were in these sexless relationships, but they weren't talking about it because of the shame around it, right? Because men are supposed to always want sex, and if a guy doesn't want sex, what's wrong, what's going on, what's the problem. And so this is something that I started to talk about a little bit more, and I went back to school and got my certification so that I could work with more couples like that. In addition to that, I started out my business in 2020, right smack in the middle of COVID, and it was kind of cool because like at that point everybody was at home having sex, and they were trying to find new things to do and new ways to pleasure each other, and so it was a lot of fun to start then. Since then, though, I have actually been diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder, and so this is a very personal topic for me, and I want to share it with other people. I've had this conversation with people who have multiple sclerosis and dealing with those chronic pain issues, and how do you navigate that when you are in constant pain. and not being able to move like you want to when you have a chronic illness. So that's one of the reasons I'm doing this topic tonight. So I hope it's helpful to you. All right. So what we're going to be talking about today, we're going to be talking about libido. Sorry, I did just do this for someone I say with multiple sclerosis, but how chronic illnesses affect desire, um, disorders affect desire and arousal. We're going to talk about mismatched libidos and then how to reconnect emotionally. All right. And at the end, I'll be sharing with you a little bit about my school group. All right. So when you think of libido, what usually comes up for you? Is it energy? Is it desire? Is it mood? Is it pressure? Is it confusion? And so when you think about when you say someone has low libido, does it mean to you like they have a low desire or they have a low, they just like they're not in the mood? Do you feel pressure when you think about low libido? Like, oh, I just don't have this sex drive and I feel like my partner's pressuring me. Maybe you don't know what libido means exactly at all. So the whole thing here is to make sense of that, right? That's what we want to do is make sense of what this means. All right. So sometimes low libido can sound like a lot of different things. I love my partner, but I don't feel like having sex. Right? It might sound like my body doesn't respond the way it used to. It might sound like it just feels like way too much effort to get in the mood, to put on the lingerie, to do my hair and makeup. Like, oh, I just don't feel like doing that, right? It can just feel like a lot of effort to get there. Or it can feel like I just miss wanting it, right? You could just feel like I really miss wanting to be intimate with my partner, and low libido can feel like that too. Low libido, though, does not mean that you have a low attraction for your partner. It doesn't mean that you don't love them anymore and the love has gone. And it also doesn't mean that you're failing your partner. And you may feel like that a lot. You may feel like I'm not doing enough for them. They're not happy here. I don't know how to fix this. I don't know. I just feel like I'm not getting things right here. But you're not failing them, right? What this really means is that your body is asking for more care. And so when you're dealing with a chronic illness, when you're dealing with an autoimmune disorder, your body is attacking itself, right? That's what's happening right on the inside. And that can manifest itself in so many ways. And so what you want to understand is that your body is saying, I need more care. And that can look like a lot of different things. It might look like eating better, it might look like exercising more, it might look like more rest, it might look like all of it. It might look like I need heat tonight, I can't do that certain position tonight. I need pillows. I need support. It can manifest itself in a lot of different ways. So make sure you're listening so that you can give your body the care it needs. All right. On the opposite side, you can have a really high libido. So this could be for a number of things. So one, you want more sex than your partner. So you're like, I'm ready to go. I'm feeling great today. I'm ready to do it. All right. It could mean that you miss touch. So you might really want your partner to just touch you more. Maybe you're not necessarily looking for sex, intercourse, but you're like, I love when they touch my body, when they hold my hand, when he kisses me, when she kisses me. That may be the thing that you want. High libido can feel like loneliness too. If you've been in a relationship where you were the person who wanted it more than your partner, it can feel really lonely to be in that space where you feel like I'm always asking, my partner never seems to be in the mood. And I just feel alone in this, not knowing where to turn, who to talk to, all of those things. And so you can feel lonely. And you also might not want to feel needy because at the same time, you're like, I'm always asking them. They probably think I can't, just handle things on my own because I'm always asking them to do something for me, to do something to me, right? And you don't want to feel needy. And so sometimes your high libido can make you hide a little bit and make you just kind of get in a corner like, I won't talk about it. I'll just wait till they're ready. Okay. Right. And so when that happens, somebody has a low, somebody has a high. We're in what's called a mismatch libido, right? And this is what comes up a lot of times for couples. I hear people talk about this where they're like, well, she always wants it or he always wants it and I don't want it as much as they do. And it's mismatch, right? There's a if you have Tubi, there is a comedy show on Tubi. It's called Safe Space with Kev on stage plays I think it's described as an underqualified therapist, talks with couples, and one of the couples he has on there, so funny. It's a guy and a girl, and she wants sex all the time, and he's like, I'm old, I can't keep doing this like this, I can't give her as much as she wants. And so at one point he asked them to write down the number of times they would like to have sex per week. And he put it on a chalkboard and they would turn around. And so he wrote 52, roughly once a week. And she wrote 700 and something, right? And she was actually doing math. It was funny because you could just hear her writing on the chalkboard. They're like, what is she doing? And she flips it around. She's like 700 and something. She's like, well, I figured twice a day. And then there's like 10 federal holidays. So I figured we could do it like extra on those days. And her boyfriend is like, you gotta be kidding me. So this is a mismatched libido situation, right? Where one person is like, I'm cool with once a week. And the other person's like, I could do it 3, 4 times a day. And you're like, what? Okay. That's the case of mismatched libido. Mismatched libidos can feel super personal too, because what happens in mismatched libidos is that each person feels like they're asking for what they need, right? And that can feel off when the two of you need something different. It's sort of like if you want spaghetti for dinner and your partner wants Chinese, and there's no place that serves those two things. That's probably not a good example because Chinese has noodles. But but if you want spaghetti and your partner wants, say, Mexican food, right? This feels like, how do we how do we match this up? How do we both get what we need? So they feel very personal, right? All right. So the question for you is, have you ever assumed what your partner's desire or lack of desire meant about you? And so sometimes what happens in situations like this is that you've assumed that because your partner isn't having sex with you, that their desire for you is low or less, or they don't like you, or they don't think you're attractive. You've made up a lot of stuff, right? You've got a story around it, and that may not be the case. All right, it may really just be that they're dealing with this chronic condition. It has nothing to do with you at all, and they're trying to figure out how to manage it, right? Same, and on the opposite side, so your partner may be feeling like, you may be feeling like, I'm letting my partner down. Do they think I don't love them anymore? Do they think I'm not attracted to them anymore? And it's none of that. You're just trying to manage what's going on in your body. Right. And so this is where erotic blueprints come in. And I'm gonna talk about this. I want to just give a caveat. This is not mine. If you want to know more about this, I'm going to share a website with you in just a second. But there is a show on Netflix. It's called Sex, Love, and Goop, and it came out a few years ago. I think during the pandemic. Everything came out during the pandemic, right? Tiger King, this, all the classics, came out, and there's a part in there where um, there's a sex counselor there. Her name is Jaya, and she worked with a couple on their erotic blueprint, and it's like an archetype. It's, if you've done archetype tests of, you're a warrior, you're a princess, you're a queen, like those kind of things. And so this one breaks down into 5 different archetypes or blueprints, and she goes through what they each mean. And this is where a lot of people, what I love about this is where a lot of people realize that they're not necessarily mismatched, but they're speaking different languages. And so it would be like if, to another analogy, if you spoke Japanese your partner only spoke German and neither of you had a shared language, it feels mismatched. So one of you has to, or both of you need to learn a little bit of the other's language or get a shared language so that you can communicate what you need to each other. So I'm going to go through those briefly and also share a resource with you. Okay, so there's 5 types. First one is kinky. Kinky is the person who is turned on by the taboo. And oftentimes we think of kinky, we're thinking, ball gags and blindfolds and floggers. It's kinky, all right, that falls in that category. But it's also anything that's taboo to you. And so if you've never done anal sex, that might be kinky for you. If you don't like, if you've never had sex, woman on top, cowgirl, that could be kinky for you, right? So kinky is those things that kind of are taboo for you, and you might be, you're turned on by that taboo. You're turned on by that what are you going, the kind of the forbidden, the thing that's like, ooh, you're turned on by that. Maybe it's being tied up, maybe it's being handcuffed, maybe it's being flogged, maybe it's being paddled. And there's psychological kinky and then there is physical kinky. So some people might like the psychological kinky, which might be denying you something. Okay, so you might, your partner might, you might say to your partner, I want X, and your partner's like, no, you can't have that, or you can't orgasm until I tell you to, or you have to wear this, this chain all day or something. So there's that psychological kink, and then there's a physical kink, which is what the blindfolds, the flogger, the paddling, those kind of things. So that's kinky. So your partner may be turned on by that. Then there's sexual. This is what most people think of. Sexual is you getting it on. You get right to the genitals. There's oral sex, there's penetration, there's the touching, the kissing, the all the things, right? It's what most of us think of as sex, and it's getting straight to what it is that you want. There may be some foreplay, there may not be, but it's definitely a lot of genital and touching and kissing and all of that in there. Then there's sensual. The sensual blueprint is all about using the 5 senses. So these people are usually turned on by the sensory part of it. That could be the touch. It might be the warm bath, the candlelight, the sound of something, the taste of food. They're turned on by literally by their senses. And so if you have a partner and they're like, oh, she always needs to be um, she always wants candlelight and baths run and this kind of thing, and you think that's a waste of time. For the sensual person, it is the thing. Okay, so you don't want to skip that if you want to get them in the mood. The energetic person is the one who is turned on by the anticipation. So they're not so much, they're not like the sexual or the sensual, but it may be just, it's coming, it's going to happen. They can be turned on by the hands coming near the body, but not necessarily on the body. Your energy or your presence being nearby. So they're turned on very differently than the other ones. Okay, they're turned on by that presence of that person. And then last but not least is the shapeshifter. And the shapeshifter is the person who can blend into any of these. Okay. So the shapeshifter can appear to be a really great partner and lover, because if you like sensual, they can do sensual. If you like sexual, they can be sexual. You like a kink, they can give you a kink. So they can kind of shapeshift into what you need or what they want to be for that time being. Okay. Uh, so those are your 5 archetypes. So I will actually put in the link. Let me see. I'm going to see if I can go to the. Here it is. Okay. I'm going to share this link. So if you're interested in taking this quiz, and I suggest you do this. I'm not an affiliate or anything. I just loved it and I wanted to share it. It's called Erotic Blueprint Breakthrough. And it's called the blueprintbreakthrough.com is the site. And you can come here and take the quiz, and the personalized quiz is $17. If you scroll down, you'll also see that there is she doesn't make it real big, but right here you can do a free one, right? And just learn your primary traits. I suggest you spend the $17 and do the personalized one. You get this 28-page report. You learn a lot about yourself, and then you learn a lot about the other blueprints and how you work with each other. And that's what's beautiful. So going back to this, so let me go back and talk about that for a second and how that works, because I think that's what's really important. So if you think about it, sorry. It's like, why didn't I change? All right. There you go. Okay. So if you think about how that works, this is what happens. So you have, let's say you're a sexual and your partner is a sensual. And I kind of gave this example a little earlier. So your sensual partner, right, is like, oh, I'm really turned on by the candlelight and the jazz music and um, the bath being run, right? You as a sexual, like, I'm just trying to get in there and hit it, right? Just trying to get it. And you realize you're thinking, what's wrong with us? Why can't we connect? And so this is where you have to have that shared language. So the sensual sometimes is going to have to let go of the candles and the bath water and just, get to it with that partner, right? But the partner who likes sexual, who wants to just get to it, is sometimes going to have to revel and kind of slow down and enjoy the candlelight and the bathwater. And you'll see how when you do that, when you start doing that, how your partners each open up to you and the libidos aren't mismatched anymore. You're now complementing each other. You're now in unison. You're in harmony because you understand that your partner needs the candlelight and all the stuff that you think is a waste of time. They need that in order to have an amazing experience. And you understand that and the other person understands your partner doesn't need any of this to have an amazing experience. They just want to get to it. And so once you realize that and you start working with it, you realize how much easier it is to be in that space with that person, and how these mismatched libidos are really just a communication that needs to happen. It's just dialogue that needs to happen. Okay. All right. Trying to figure out why that's not going full screen, and I'm not going to do that right now. All right. All right. So there's different blueprints, different pathways to desire. So when you have a different blueprint, when you're kinky and you're turned on by the floggers and you're turned on by the handcuffs and the blindfold, that's your path to desire. When you're with someone who wants the candlelights and the slow music, you're going to have to figure out, how can I fit all this in, because you each have a different way that you get to the excitement that you want and love. Okay. All right. So you have to do some adapting, right? And that's just life, right? I think we all have to do some adaptation at some point. Okay. All right. 1 second. All right. Let me get to. Okay. All right. So as I said before, autoimmune diseases can lower libido, and they just can. Your body is dealing with a lot, and sometimes that's the thing that's like, we don't have the energy for that. We're fighting everything else, and so how do you work through that? Because you don't want to just stop. You want to still have amazing um, partnership and sex with your partner, and so you don't want it to just end, right? But autoimmune diseases can also raise libido too. So there's a good side to this, right? It can do both. All right. And when you're under libido differences, underneath all those libido differences are feelings, right? And that's the thing, is that we can start feeling, like I said, you might feel lonely, you might feel needy, you might feel like your partner doesn't care or doesn't listen to you. So underneath all of this, there's these feelings that we're all dealing with. And these are some of the ways that we're dealing with, that we start looking at desire. So, in your car, you have a gas pedal, you have a brake pedal, right? Our libido is similar to that. The gas pedal is that desire, you is the thing that just kind of drives you. Again, it could be the sexual thing, it could be the kinky part of you, it might be the sensual part, the energetic part. That's the stuff that gets you going. But then there's the break, and the break is what kind of puts a stop to things. And that can be anything from stress to medications that you're taking to you just had a bad day, you're hungry, you're full. Like a lot of things can put the brakes on the sexuality that you're having. And so I don't have a slide about this, but I'm going to talk about it. This is where we talk about responsive desire versus spontaneous desire. And when we're younger, there's a lot of spontaneous desire. You go somewhere, you see somebody, they're hot, you're like, oh my God, I can't wait to get with them. And you just have it, and everything just falls in place. It's kind of what you see in the movies, right? Where everybody's just like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. You kiss, you fall in bed, you had this amazing sex for 3 minutes, and everybody has an orgasm, right? But then there's responsive desire. Responsive desire means sometimes you don't get in the mood until you're in it, right? And so maybe you're not in the mood right away, but you start kissing your partner, or they hold your hand, or they run their fingers through your hair, or maybe they're bald and you just rub their bald head, you touch their arm, and suddenly you get in the mood. You weren't there at first, but you responding to that. And a lot of us are in the responsive desire mode, especially as we get older. And that's great. Okay. Hopefully we stop falling into bed with whoever, and we start, being with the person we really want to be with, because we're responding to their desire for us. Okay. And so when we think about it, what stops these conversations? What stops us from talking about this? Is it fear? Is it shame? Is it not wanting to hurt people's feelings? Is it a combination of everything? And it can be. So some of the things we can say when we're dealing with this is, I miss feeling close. Can we talk about how to reconnect in a way that feels good for both of us? Sometimes you just need to say that so that your partner doesn't feel alone. They don't feel left out. They don't feel abandoned. They know that you're like, I want this too, and I don't know how to do it. So tell me, how can we reconnect in a way that feels good for both of us? I can't put my feet behind my head anymore. That position is done. But what can I do that, we can still be together and feel good together? Okay. That brings us to sex and low libido. So let's talk about some low libido things. What can we do about it? One of the things we can do is schedule intimacy. A lot of people are like, Renee, that's not sexy. I don't want to do that. You know what's not sexy? Not having sex. Okay. Like, people that always tell me that, I'm like, whatever. Not having sex is not sexy. And so maybe you need to schedule intimacy. And let me tell you why I suggest that. Scheduling intimacy puts you in a place where you have some anticipation. It's sort of like scheduling a trip. Have you ever scheduled a vacation and you're like, oh my God, we're going to, Hawaii, we're going to the Bahamas, we're going somewhere this summer, and you're scheduling and you're buying things for the trip, you're getting a new swimsuit, you're doing all the things, and there's that anticipation there. So when you get to it, when you get to that trip and nothing goes wrong, hopefully, you're like, this is amazing, right? You're looking forward to it. And so I often suggest this because I say, schedule intimacy and make sure it is um it's sacred. Like if you say Thursday nights at 9:30, we're doing it. That's just the end of it. You and I, we got a date, okay? And you make that a sacred time. And what happens is you'll start looking forward to it. I'm not saying do it every week, But schedule it when you've been in a drought, schedule it and say, you know what, we're having sex Saturday night 10. And you know what'll happen? You'll start to look forward to it. You might plan a dinner. You might buy new lingerie, new boxers. You might, do the candles. You might do those things because you've scheduled it and you're looking forward to it. Use pillows and support. You are dealing with autoimmune disorders and chronic pain. There's nothing that's more painful than like laying in a flat, hard bed, okay? So use pillows. And I would suggest, I'm sorry, I didn't bring it in here with me. There's pillows that help prop you up. There's pillows that give you support. I'm not talking about the pillows that you sleep on. I'm talking about like sex pillows. You could go to a site called liberator.com. Liberator has a lot of incredible sex furniture, if you will, that you can use to position your body to make it more comfortable when you're having sex. Explore different kinds of touch. Sometimes we get in a rut. We've been doing something, if you've been having sex since you were 20 and you're 50, if you haven't learned anything, then you've been doing the same thing for 30 years. Let that sink in for a minute, okay? And you think you're doing it, right? Because it worked when you were 20. But at 50, is it? And so explore different kinds of touch. And that may mean, are you touching lightly? Could you use more pressure? Touch with different things, use different sensations. For instance, for instance, you might decide to use something like a Wartenberg wheel. This one has three on it. This one has one. It's kind of prickly. Some people like this, and you use that on the skin, and it's like, ooh, okay. That's a different kind of touch. You might want to use something like feathers, fur. You might want to just explore with that because you never know what will feel good to your partner or not. Always use lube. People think, oh, I get wet, it's not a problem. Lube always makes everything better. It makes everything slick and slippery. If you are having intercourse, I suggest, if you're having intercourse and you're not using silicone based toys, go for a silicone lube like Uber lube, something like that. If you are using any type of toys, then you want to use a water based lube because you don't want the silicone, and silicone lubes will break down the silicone in silicone toys. Okay, I said that right. All right. Okay. And focus on pleasure, not performance. This is another thing that we can get into. It's like, I'm doing all the things. I'm flipping my hair. You're trying to be like a porn star, right? You're trying to be impressive. And I don't know about you, but when you watch porn, it never looks like it's really pleasurable to anybody, to be honest. But you definitely want it to be pleasurable. You want to leave in the experience like, this was really great, I really enjoyed it, and not just, I did a great performance. Okay. If you have a high libido, here's some things you can do. So you might want to just release some pressure. That could mean self-love, if that's what you need. Like, you might have your own vibrator, or you might have your own for men, you might have your own like masturbation eggs that have texture inside, is what I'm trying to say. A texture in them so you can feel that. Build emotional closeness. So that means just kind of being close to your partner, talking more, communicating more about the things that matter to the both of you. Okay. So that could be where that comes in. Right. Honor self pleasure. I just mentioned this. So if you have a high sex drive and your partner does it, don't feel bad about self pleasure. It's a great way to take care of your needs and make sure that your desires are being met. And ask, how can I help sex feel easier for you? So if you're the person with the higher libido, ask the person with the lower libido, how can I make this feel easier for you? Because I don't want this to be a burden. I don't want you to feel um, like I'm being needy or like you have to do something. I want it to be easy. I want you to feel like it's easy. How can I help that? And sexy is invited, it's not demanded. So, again, inviting them in. I'd love to be close to you. How can we do this? Not like we need to get it tonight. I need to get some tonight. And if I don't, I'm going somewhere else. That's not, demanded sex is never sexy. So you just definitely want to invite your partner, right? And any emotional connection. You want to have that emotional connection with your partner. That can mean kissing, hugging. It can mean what most of us consider foreplay, which I consider sex as well. So it could be the foreplay part. It could just be we're kissing, we're hugging, there's oral sex, there's touching, there's sensual massage. All of those things fall under emotional connection and just connecting that way. Also, just communicating. This is what I need. This is what I want. This is what I like. This is what feels good to my body. Right. And normalize help. That can mean talking with somebody like me who's a certified sex counselor, or turning to toys. And there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes people need that. Even if your partner is up for sex, right? It's not just self-love, but you might need help with that because you're dealing with a chronic illness. Maybe your partner's having is taking a medication and it's uh, lowering his libido, or it's affecting the erection that they're having. Don't let pride keep you from trying out new things. Okay, there's tons of toys on the market for both men and women, and so you want to try out something and see what happens, and try out some of the things that you look at and you think, I don't know if I want to do that. I don't know if I want to try that. But this is what I tell people: you don't have to do it again. So if you try, if you do handcuffs, and you're like, yeah, no, I don't ever want to be confined like that again. Guess what? Don't do it again. You're not married to it, right? You're not. It's not cemented to you. It's not like I did it and I gotta do it all the time. No, that's not it. But try some things. You never know what might feel good to you and what might be the thing that makes you say, okay, I like this. Let's add this in. Okay, all right. And then a gentle reminder that one of the things I like to talk about is expanding the definition of sex to be more than just intercourse. Okay, this is really important, I think, because so often we can get into this of kind of a rut, if you will, with sorry, I try to change it this way. There we go. Okay. We can get into this rut where we only see sex as penis and vagina sex if you're heterosexual, and not looking at all of the ways that sex can it encompasses our lives. And so again, it could be sensual massage, it might be oral sex, it could be anal sex, it could be just just touching, and just expanding that definition. I like to talk about expanding the definition into pleasure. There's so many things that can feel pleasurable to your body, not in addition to, or not just intercourse. Okay. And then talking, right? You really do need to talk with your partner. You need to be upfront with them. You need to be um, communicating with them what your wants, your needs, and your desires are, so that you can get on the same page. You can't just expect them to know what it is you want and know how you want to feel. That's insane. Like, I just, it's just insane to think that they're mind readers. I don't care how long you've been together. Your partner's desires and needs will change over time. The thing that they liked when they were 25, when you met them, might still be effective at 50, 55, but it might not. And what happens is we never have that conversation. We think, oh, what I did back then will always work. And you'll find that no, maybe they want something slower, they want it faster, they want more pressure, they want less pressure, they want to try something new because they've gotten bored. They're just like, we've been doing this for 20 years. Like, let's try the blindfold, let's try a flogger, let's try tie me up. Like, they might want to try something different to find out what makes them feel good, what brings them pleasure. So have those conversations. All right. And here's where I'm going to offer you something. So I have a group on school. It's called the Grown Folks Society. And this is where we talk about real sex after 40. I give tools and resources for connection and better pleasure. It's a private space for grown people to come and talk about these issues. And it's free to join. I do have tiers. So there's a free one, there's a premium at 27 a month, and then there's a VIP at 67 a month. Those are where I do live workshops. We tackle intimacy questions, Q&A sessions. I'll have classes in there and monthly hot seats for couples in the VIP. So if you're a couple or you're a person who just like, I just need some help, Renee, like tell me what I need to do to get to where I need to be, that's your space for that. Okay. So free 27 and 67. And to get there is school.com/, the Grown Folks Society. So if you have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. I'm happy to answer those questions for you. And again, I'm Renee Yvonne at the Grown Folks Society, and that's the link to the school group. And I hope to see you in there. And I hope this was helpful to just learn a little bit more about what you can do if you have autoimmune disorder or a chronic illness, chronic pain, how you can navigate that, because you shouldn't have to do this alone. You should be wondering what to do, and you definitely shouldn't be giving up any type of pleasure, because one thing I always say is pleasure never gets old. Okay, so I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for joining me. Bye.